Assalamu alaikum and good evening to everyone. Today is the 5th of the July and I was basically last night and the still up till now I was basically observing the issues of the central divisional benches of the Pakistan while having the analyst report uh, under the research analyst regulation 2015 that which sections and which articles should have been understood by the Republicans under the fiscal governance defaults of the Pakistan up till now in the central divisional benches of the Pakistan. So I observed that the central litigated entrusted rights of the Pakistanis while having the most often of the times no point of the circulatory issues of the same. In fact, I was basically observing these issues while the whole of the day today. As a matter of the grace of the right, I obligate with that sense of wisdom by myself, and after observing these issues, what I observed the next point in the capital gross calculation of the same subjected rights as a grace remark of the same in fact. Yeah. I observe the matter fact of the same in fact that the central obligation of the research analyst report by the section of the independent research report which I'm representing today by the electronic transaction ordinance 2002 for the welfare of the mankind in the Pakistan. When I observe that the humans are very intellectually educated and are not and were not willing to extend their mental approach to represent the state organization, what I observe the most in the central lines of the Pakistan is a question which should have been understood by the civil default ordinary individuals of the Pakistan who are just over the street, and you can observe that while you have the central negated eyes. I observe those factors that you have central negated eyes, and when I just observe that you cannot observe the human decaying positions, I observe with the research report of the same. Right, the Article 184 of the Supreme Judicial Council. I represent this case online as to safeguard myself from the heinous criminals of the central divisional benches of the Lahore. Today, you can observe that you cannot represent a case offline because of the central divisional benches of the criminal in charge by the overcharged and defluxed individual in Pakistan as a matter of natural disaster in the Pakistan. I observed that the central litigated and non-litigated parties in the Pakistan are not in the observation of the point of the intellectual rights, and some of them are just trying to convince their surrounding with the utmost bastardity that the selling of the female is an offense which is not understood by any Pakistani. When I just come with the point that the Karukari, there is no Pakistani who is willing to understand the Karukari offense. The Syakari, I apply to the whole of the provincial autonomies of the Pakistan. Syakari and Karukari implied methods of the dysfunctional organic disorders of the females in the Pakistan. After suffering from the Karukari and Syakari, such females are trying to represent the civil affairs of my governance, which I represent by the whole of the Pakistan by myself. So, I'm not willing to understand such groups of the males and females. As a matter of scientific approved transaction by myself, when I observe that such females and the males, both sides of the same, in fact, are not in the point of the inclined ratio of the same as a matter of their lives over the surface of the earth. When I observe that such females and males are trying to raise the racial tribes while having no signs of the wisdom and execution of the same, in fact, I observe that the humans' decaying position in Pakistan are not in the point to observe the points of the same, in fact. When I just try to understand the inherited capital interest value by myself, then I come up with the next thought in my obsolete matter of the devastated matter of scientific approved constitutional mandate. The political anarchies in the Pakistan are not willing to understand any Pakistani. The Pakistani are dying for bread and butter, and the common government concurrent applied individuals are not willing to understand the local residential premises issues. I should always resemble those issues which are the public figures. The public basically observed to be very sympathetic and under the sympathy taking targets of the same. I observe these issues. When I just observed that the females and the males, both groups are trying to testify the testimonial of the same. In fact, in the cases of the courts, their courts cases and the same facts of the same are not in the point of the observation. I impliedly observe those points by myself under the human trafficking ordinance, that it is not a matter of grace in the Pakistan that the central defected individual under the civil defection, most often the times when I just construe that battles of their civil defection under the clauses of the general adaptation to the laws of negligence in the abeyance of the general discretion of the same, in fact, appears to the next point. When I just construe the operative elementary question that the students of the youngsters and the youngster colleague mates are not in the Gadget Ordnance Bureau Act 2014. When I just observe the females are decaying position with having the malified intention of the males, and the males are not in the positions to observe the tentative assessment of the females. When I myself observe the tentative assessment of the females under the humanitarian negligence orders by myself, then I come up with the next thought that the humans are trying to have the capital inherited interest via the females of the religious deferred transaction. I'm not saying the religious inferred transactions. Then I come with a social challenge by myself again as a scientific approved technical transitional observation of mine. Then I come up with the thoughts of the observing the points of the negation of the human science in the Pakistan. I observe these issues by myself. I am observing such issues with the series-wise criminal misappropriated rights of the same, in fact, as a matter of right. So the question of the females of the Pakistan is always in the public sector when these females are dying, having no point of the proper lines of the assessment. And these days the females are having the proper intake of negative thinking. When I come up with the next conclusion that the Pakistan and the central departments of the Pakistan operative functional leagues under the central defluxed bodies of the same are not in the positions. They have produced a series of the criminal vagabond approved digital criminal females as well, and non-digital as well. And the humans under the males codependency and the co-accused and guilty associates in the defection of the civil clauses often of the times comes in the courts after having the police registration cases in the subordinate police offices in the Pakistan. When I observe the police cases in the Pakistan by myself, then I come up with the conclusion that the police cases are perfect, but the humans are not. So the issues of the judicial sides are always very reflexive with the issues of the science. I'm very conversant to these points at law under my subordinate rules, that when I'm observing myself to raise my slogan of the voice as to observe the question of the doubts into the question of the abstract normalcy, the question of the affected science and the cost affected negations and the cost negated narratives of the same is a very huge quantum of resilience in the public sector. When I observe that the central, thereby it is also an adjusted law which is not being reconciled by any Pakistan in their houses. Their poverty and their poverty under empowered females and their males, both sectors, after having the ultimate deflected and defection of the science and wisdom and the science of the observing the consignment of the constructive optimization of the thinking, then what is being confronted by the same is an abstract issue which I am always asking myself. Then the department under the section 20 reporting of suspicious activities should have to file this reporting of the suspicious activities while I'm into the dictum. But the Pakistan department are working hard, but the individuals and the representative in interest of the same are also fine with the same subject matter. But when we just observe the colossal method of the individuals at the adverbial as well as adversarial issues of the same under the adversary rights of the same in Pakistan, they are very genetic wise and genetically deferred from the payment of their own senses. When I just observe these all issues while having a deep eye over the ultimate negated points, I come up with the next thought with myself that the question of the science and the question of the humanity under the uh, you can assume that general question that the assumption to the presumption of doubt. This is an advanced term. The assumption to the presumption of the doubt in the Pakistan is an aggressive tool which is being molded in every sector by the Republicans. And the Republicans, after differing from every sector, always want to repel with the same in the compulsive mode of assessment. But my assessments are very tentative in nature, and I just always observe these sectors. The corrupt Pakistani, 98% corrupt Pakistani, in the corruption of their genes by inheritance, always take the shelter of the females as well. And when a person who object with the same subject of female into the science of neglection to the same, then they come up with the colony of the laws that the females are very loving, caring, but are not willing to understand those females as well of the Pakistan, because when they are not willing to observe their rights, when they are not willing to operate their operative laws, then why the hell they have consumed and they have sexually stroked so much females? Because they are inheritedly criminal. Their males are criminal. I apply the sodomist over the whole of the Punjab. Section 377A. The Punjabian males falls under section 377A. Their females fall under 3 section 376A. So stay blessed and take care. Always reflecting the Punjab issues in the Pakistan. Take care. Advocate good risking.